an energy form, their energy bank, their energy tickets, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why bricks are important. Wrap it up. We're done. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, and
anytime you bring up the laws of thermodynamics during growing, I'm listening.
And I just don't think it's something that a lot of people are keyed into. And
I'll be Gabe. There's a couple things, and I'm going to be honest in here that I went, I didn't look at it like that. And even just looking at plants really as sugar factories and just as a gauge. And then even like we said, even for, looking at potential problems and things like that, which we'll get specifically into. But
we're Jug Dealers, we're the podcast you need in your feed, teaching the game like you never seen. Jerin, Gabe, GRAMBO, true OGs, masters of the globe, set your mind free. From Denver, Colorado, where the data's green, we set the data points for the SOPs. Jug Dealers Podcast, yes indeed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Jug Dealers Podcast, where we discuss all things cannabis and lifestyle related, brought to you by the good people of 5E. And as always, available at jugdealers.net and jugdealers.shop.
Jugdealers.shop.
That runs from Jacob Greba. Hitting a little hard.
Thank you, Mr. Greba. Shout out to Mr. Greba for the runs. A little housekeeping. Obviously, we have Patreon all opened up for the Jug Club currently. We do have everything available, as we said, available on jugdealers.shop. Of course, you can sign up with your email on the VIP list as well to be able to kind of get the goings on of what we're doing and also get exclusive discounts. And of course, last but not least, our bookings page where you can communicate directly with us when we're going to be in different locales. I will actually be in Barcelona next week. I'm going to be at Cannabis. So I'll actually
this
be
episode, you'll probably be on the plane.
Yeah, I'll basically be on my way right now. And I'll be in Barcelona for a week, and then I'm going to be up in Bilbao for Cannabis as well. I'm going to be actually at the show walking the floor. So hit me up if you guys want to do an interview, hang out, have a smoke, have some tapas.
And
we can do that.
Going to MJ Berlin, hit us up. You still got time.
Yes.
It's going to be a Jug Dealers hangout.
We'll both be there.
Yes. In fact, both Gabe and I are going to be there. We're both going to be there in Berlin. We are dropping some exclusive nutrients that will be brand new onto the European market. We've got a whole package put together. We do have people that have already been reaching out. It is a limited number of them. We do have people that are hitting us up very consistently. And so that number and that list is building fast. So don't wait. Reach out. You can click right on there. It shoots an email to me. I'll confirm with you. We'll get you guys a QR code or whatever as we get closer to the event. But hey, it is right around the corner. So make sure and get on the Germany list. All right. Well, all that's done now. So
we got a good one today. We're talking about bricks.
We're talking about bricks, and we're not talking about the ones you actually stack up and make buildings
the ones
with, right?
The ones I picked up for 15 years.
Right. So that's with an X, BRIX. So we're talking about one of what we consider to be the most overlooked, yet also most critical numbers in cannabis cultivation that can be very easily measured. And I think that's one of the most important points. And we'll get into how you actually measure it and everything else. But the fact that it's very easy to do, very quick to do, it's rudimentary, and you can actually really see over the course of time how things can change and really relate it to plant health, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So you're going to understand how to measure it, what that measurement means, what the science is of it, what the heck's going on, and all that good stuff. And yes, it does really affect terpene profiles. It does affect, plant vigor. It does affect disease resistance, pest resistance. It's pretty wild.
I remember reading long ago about how they use it just to help fight PM in Holland.
Yeah, for that alone.
Because the hyphae just can't penetrate the cell wall when the bricks is super high in the plants.
There you go. So you got I like that. Thanks, Grandma.
And it's definitely, as we get down this rabbit hole of it moving more towards let's say an agricultural commoditized plants. This is the way you really got to start looking at things, because this is a way better way.
It's measurable.
And it's a way better way to have your plants do the IPM themselves than to be spraying your plants.
One of the things I really learned, I'm glad you actually said that, because one of the things I very quickly learned, when I was in school and doing horticulture school, is it isn't about learning all the different chemicals to spray all the different stuff. Yeah, you want to recognize insects. So entomology, super important, all that. Shout out to Dan Banks, our good friend who came on and did that episode with us. You guys can check out really good cannabis entomology episode we did a while back. But the point is I realize it really is about growing healthy plants that take care of themselves. And whether that's vegetables or whether that's cannabis or whether that's
plant janitors
or whatever.
That's what
plant janitor, that's the whole thing.
That's what people really need to understand. Like, we throw that term around and, it's like, it's somewhat comical, but it really is. giving your plants the best place so they can be so healthy. Like that's what it comes down to.
Yes.
It's your plant being so healthy that it's doing all the work.
And speaking of that, I actually just got word somebody, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody shot out and said there's a Plant Janitor OG strain out there now.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Somebody.
If you got a cut,
Jug Dealers.
if you got a cut, leave a comment.
Yeah. Who's got it?
He's got
We
that
need
Jug
it.
Dealer
You know?
OG. They're the Plant Janitor
So,
OG. Let's
okay,
go.
you can obviously
is
get
it this guy?
I don't. Is it?
It's our boy. I tried to find the stonedest model.
Yeah,
He
that's
does.
why I love how he does the
look
guy.
pretty
He does the guy. That was a fair play.
He does look pretty rad.
We are, you know what, Grambo, we still got a couple of shirts too that we need to get up there. We're always starting to put some more stuff in. Grambo finally is back in full force.
Yes.
Poor guy's been, out of the chair for a little bit. So
been
it's
in
good
the
to have
chair.
all three of
It's
us
been a
back in here.
different chair.
Yeah, it's been a different chair, not the kind of one you want to be in. So let's talk about the show outline super, super quick. Obviously, we're going to talk about what is bricks. Why does it matter? I think we already kind of said that. How to measure bricks. What do the numbers tell you? And then obviously advanced bricks, which will be more about pest resistance, terpenes, and the little known science, because obviously always when it comes to soil science or plant science, you get to a certain point where it goes, that's about all we know. And sometimes it's really not that much. So segment one, Gabe, why don't you kind of get us knocked off? What is bricks and why does it matter?
It's a measurement of dissolved solids in the plant sap. Majority of those dissolved solids are sugars.
Right.
And so that's the big thing.
The term does come from, it always is
always
a German.
And
they're all,
it's always European. It's always in the 19th century.
and it's always a guy named
like
Adolf.
what's like your boy Von Lee.
Yeah.
We're going to go with A-Dog
bricks.
Adolf bricks.
So now he did develop, and that's why it is a brick scale. Obviously, people ask, and we do like to get the root of that, right? So, he is who developed the scale while working on a sugar beet industry, which makes total sense, right? They're wanting to look at, and obviously that's the whole commodity that they're growing. When you talk about horticultural significance, like when we talk about being oil farmers, same thing. If you're growing sugar beets, it's not about eating them. It's about how high is the bricks and sugar content so that you can actually extract that for money. So it makes complete sense.
And it's funny because by comparison, as I remember, like sugar beets have like 5 times as much sugar as like, let's say corn syrup.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Right. To my point. Now, here's the other thing, too. I think a lot of people don't realize just how much it is the currency of the plant. Like sugars, it really is all about sugars, right? So if a plant's working at a high level, has a high level of metabolism, I mean, that's how it pays itself. That's how really everything is done.
Well, and this is what's transported through the vascular system.
Absolutely.
Is basically this.
And if you were thinking about, and if you think about plants in general, not just cannabis plants, but if you think about plants in general, you can almost break this down into really a little more simpler in the sense that it's just a sugar factory.
Yep.
That's what photosynthesis is.
High bricks in your vegetable garden is good too.
C6, H12, O6, that's sugar. That's photosynthesis. That's what a plant is doing. It's capturing the sun and it's taking that energy. And just like Newton taught us, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just transferred, right? So what it's taking is taking that energy and it's putting it into sugar, which is an energy form, their energy bank, their energy tickets, if you will. So that's why bricks are important. Wrap it up. We're done. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. And
anytime you bring up the laws of thermodynamics during growing, I'm listening.
And I just don't think it's something that a lot of people are keyed into. And
I'll be honest.
Again,
Gabe, there's a couple of things, and I'm going to be honest in here that I went, I didn't look at it like that. And even just looking at plants really as sugar factories and just as a gauge. And then even like we said, even for, looking at potential problems and things like that, which we'll get specifically into. But let's talk about even, the brick scale specifically itself, Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually will say too, when Finelli brought in these guys from New Age Labs in Michigan, and they're actually one of the only companies that does testing. I actually want to get them on here.
Okay.
But they were the ones that kind of got me thinking with this and spending an hour with these guys and listening. And a lot of where they were coming from is the corn industry, in which that's the big thing. Like, farmers are finally starting to sign on to it, and they're seeing like,
interesting.
So here's the thing, like the way they were explaining it, you can grow a bushel of corn, but it doesn't necessarily count like how dense it is, how many kernels there are, and all the rest of that stuff.
Very interesting.
And ultimately, like that's really what matters. So, and because it's carbon, and we talk about carbon being 45% of the plant,
right?
When they started talking about it with me, all of a sudden it kind of locked in, and I was like, hey man, all the episodes, especially the ones we've been doing recently, like it's all tying together. And I hope it is for you guys as well.
Sure, it's
like
for me.
A lot of this for us a bunch of times is us kind of having a conversation and you guys watching. But like we're
trying to close the loops for ourselves.
Like we're seeing all these things on our own because
Scotty Real always says, he goes, we're just learning in public, people.
I love it.
Right,
no, that's a great way of putting it. And honestly, you guys pushing us and the people out there, which happens very consistently. And thank you all to all our listeners, which I consistently, and even, and actually shout out to Ruck Collector. Actually, we got to spend some time at Reggae Rise Up. He came by, showed me all the cool plants he has around his yard there.
That was down in Florida.
Down in Florida. Yeah. So definitely shout out to Ruck Collector. He has some badass rugs too, to be honest with you. Lived in Turkey for a while and whatnot. Yeah. Real interesting guy.
A good turkey
spent some good time at the at the show, and even ran across another random guy who was like, "Oh, I didn't." So anyway, never be afraid to come up and say hello. We do like those interactions, believe it or not, and it really does help give us the juice to keep going. Is you guys saying, "Hey, we love what you're doing. Please keep it up." So
let's talk about the brick scale.
What it actually means.
Yeah, originally it was developed for wine and sugar.
Makes sense.
It's a percentage of sucrose in a liquid. 1 degree bricks equals 1 gram of sucrose per 100 grams of solution.
Oh my gosh, this almost sounds like this is done on the metric scale. Like it makes sense. What the heck is going on over here?
Here's the thing, and here's what people got to understand. This is what I'm trying to give everybody is a tool, something that is consistent, that they've been using in other industries for, over 100 years now.
Yeah.
That we can kind of take and start to measure what our plants are doing, and quite frankly, how to optimize.
Well, and that's the thing.
Doing.
So then it can actually do what its job is, which, as we know, again, going back, being oil farmers, it's there to produce oil, right?
Yep.
But we have to keep that at that top. How do we maximize our minimums, and how do we keep it running like a top? No pun intended, right?
So why don't you tell people what we're actually?
So specifically, sucrose, glucose, and fructose, which is sugars, and those are small chain sugars, right? And we even talk a lot about that with Carbonaria, right? Being that it's pre-digested, so it's already in very small sugar chains, it's ready to be used as plant energy or as bacterial food as well. So it really is, kind of that two-part, ready to be plant or bacteria food. So we definitely love using that product to really continue to jazz up the rhizosphere, and then for that to go in a mass flow, and be uptaken by the plant and utilized as well. But it also is going to talk about the amino acids, because again, you got to keep in mind too, it is a dissolved solid. So that also does, although to a lesser degree, talk about amino acids, proteins, and different minerals. Basically all the dissolved solids is really what it's doing.
Well, and sugars, they're the currency of the plant. They drive that secondary metabolite activity, which you consistently love to talk about. Terpenes, cannabinoids, flavonoids, they all require carbon skeletons derived from sugar metabolism.
And they need sugar, or they need triggers, and then they need to have the building blocks to take that on, right? And that's really what we're always trying to do, because even really we're not giving plants plant food. Plant food. We're giving them building blocks. It's really what we're giving.
That's that photosynthesis efficiency link.
Yes, exactly. And so what are we giving them? We're giving them the ability to build proteins, which really science is all building proteins for different things, and very specific proteins and different tertiary or structure, secondary, tertiary structure, all this stuff to fit in properly, enzymes, all these. It's really just building blocks to put all these things together, or chlorophyll or whatever it happens.
And basically, this number you're measuring is the sign of how efficiently your plant is.
Yes.
How it's processing everything.
And really that photosynthesis efficiency length really has to do with the Hybrix reading, meaning your plant's chloroplasts are running hot, right? So CO2 fixation is up. Light conversion is tip top.
Break it down, science boy.
And nutrient uptake, everything's right. Everything's working together. And just like I said, it's that maximizing your minimums, right? So that's all in there, whether that's making sure, even going back to your dissolved oxygen's right, so that your nutrient uptake can be correct, and all these different things, so that your metabolism, so your water temperature's right, so your metabolism can be running right, so that he can actually convert that light that you're giving it to, because you're going to be throwing out that energy and using it regardless. You may as well try and convert it into what we're trying to convert, which is sugars. This is a sugar factory, folks.
Yeah.
Woo! Oh my gosh. Also, woo, get a little hot in here. Here's the thing that was the most interesting thing to me as we were going on putting this thing together, but using it as a diagnostic tool. Well, and that's the Finelli link.
That's the Finelli link. Is Finelli he'll get in there and he'll see a color. He'll be like, I need numbers on these right now. They're doing this.
Wow.
And he's pretty, he's really spot on. So, I mean, when you see those numbers dropping and you're monitoring it, there should be someone in your facility. And we've implemented this in the place that we're at since we've gotten there. But, we're taking the runoff. Not, you should be collecting the numbers that you're putting water in.
Right.
But you should also be collecting the temperature of that water, in which we've discussed that now in episodes.
Yep.
You should be collecting the DO on that water, as we've discussed
which are also competing curves, which can be frustrating.
But you should also be testing that runoff. And then you should also be testing that plant tissue and that sap. And that's how you bring it all full circle.
Well, and what was the most interesting thing to me is actually a drop in bricks will be seen before deficiency. Before you see those symptoms. So now we're using it, and this really goes back, Gabe. Now you're using it as a sign, not a symptom. Okay. And you're going back and you're going, okay,
I've heard
something's
that before.
not. What was that? What episode was that, GRAMBO? It's been a while. My God, we've done so many.
I mean, you quoted it a bunch of episodes.
Well, say signs and symptoms. And it's something that, really using a sign, because a symptom can be very general. And I always like to use the example of overwatering and underwatering. Well, son of a bitch, they both look the same, don't they? Plants drooped out, not taking anything, right? And you go, yellowing, that's very general. Like a lot of these things are general. But if you can step it back to bricks, for example, and see that, okay, the metabolism has dropped down because the sugar production has dropped down. It's just an indicator of the plant's not operating well enough to produce as much sugar as it could. It's not hitting its potential.
If you can get that, they have some meters on, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but if you can arm your employees with this tool, it's going to make them better. It's going to make them more efficient, and they're going to be able to really read the plants better because they're going to have data. They're going to have a number in their hand in which they know what to look for.
Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about this too, more specifically, but it does change over time. And that's part of it too, is understanding that, just like we always say, eventually comes down to strain specificity, doesn't it? So they're going to have different tolerances in different strains. There's no question about that, but you're going to see that difference over time, right? And you're going to see it peak and you're going to see it rise, towards the end when we're looking for it. Is there, and maybe this is almost a little teaser for another episode we're going to do, but is this a tie to white ash? Ash. I mean, maybe yes, maybe no.
Is that real?
I don't know.
We're going to get to the bottom of it. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe now, because the white ash debate, it's over in 2026.
We're going to figure this out.
The thing I thought, the thing that I thought was pretty cool on this, doing the research for this episode, was high bricks as far as in grapes and stuff like that. And obviously, as you would think, it was going to make them sweeter.
Sweeter, of course.
But actually, they store longer. They store better with that high.
That's what I also found interesting as well. It doesn't rot, which I would think the opposite. I would think, oh man, it's sweeter. It's going to rot faster or something. I don't know.
What's funny
but
is
sugar factory, so that means it was doing better.
So when you think about the best years with grapes, generally the best years with grapes are a hot, drier summer.
Right. That has those positive stresses. Yeah.
And
I knew you were going with this.
And I think about that, like when I was in Italy for my birthday in October, that's right around grape harvest and stuff like that. And that really is what's going to push those high bricks numbers. Lots of sun, stress, and so when you think about applying those principles to what we do, that's the direct. I mean, for anybody who watches this show, I would think, I would hope that you would. That's the direction you should be going.
So let me propose this, and I'm not saying we have an answer for this, but if we follow this logic, right, of something that has a higher bricks content, which means it's going to have a plant that has grown with more vigor, has been able to produce more of what it's supposed to do and everything else in particular, which any plant is doing literally one thing at the end of the day. So if I can try and make this link, and if we follow this logic, right, and go, well, if something has grown better across the board and produce more of what it's supposed to do and all these things, and being that it's a plant, so no matter what, every single plant can be looked at as just a sugar factory at a certain point. So if all those things are good, and if it helps a fruit store longer, could that help cannabis resin store longer?
You would think so, yeah.
Right? If you follow that same logic, does that not lie? Because here's the other thing too. Could it fight off oxidation for longer in flower form? Could it produce, or could it store better in extract form? I mean, this is just kind of what
I think. Definitely, it would make a healthier cuticle head for all that oil to stay in.
See, that's what I'm saying, and you're going to have naturally thicker cell walls and a little bit of this. Again, guys. just conjecturing here.
So I coined this last weekend. It's like, it's reeking because it's leaking. So if you can maintain those heads, you can get some of those greasy strains to maybe not, maybe wash a little bit better.
I can tell you, since we've switched over to the Scietetics in the building, we've seen I've seen some 3 and 4% terps on flower.
Right.
And that's really, really high.
Super high
for flower.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is kind of the realization that obviously, I'm also coming to again, it just as an indicator of a healthy, running plant that's able to do all the things that a plant's supposed to do. And again, it's a diagnostic tool, but it's also very easy to do. And I've heard about it in strawberries and grapes and all these other things, but that's also one of the beautiful things that everybody, I did not want to interrupt the show. However, we need you to help us by taking your grow to the next level. Go right on over to jugdealers.shop and pick up some Slicium. Don't let bugs or a failed AC or a broken pump take your grow down. Get Slicium at jugdealers.shop. It is readily water soluble and uptaken immediately to thicken cell walls and reduce any and all abiotic and biotic stresses. Keep in mind, this is how we support the show. We are never sponsored. We are funded by you taking your grow to the next level. So to support us and your grow, head on over to jugdealers.shop and get yourself something real nice. Now back to the show. And again, it's a diagnostic tool, but it's also very easy to do. And I've heard about it in strawberries and grapes and all these other things, but that's also one of the beautiful things that, having a guy like Neil who has, who's out of that area and it has worked in all these different, different pieces of the industry, of the horticultural industry, and is able to take these principles and bring them in. I'm not saying that he has anything directly to do with bricks. It just gets me thinking that's, what I mean? That's, they're all driving. That's what people are really trying to do is take that and bring these principles into cannabis, into our world, right? I just hadn't thought about it before.
And speaking of Neil too, shout out to everybody that episode got gated, but everyone heard us talking about it. It got up to 10,000.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to hear the episode of Neil, you can go back. Masterclass with America's top growing expert.
Dude, I love it. And we got shouted on that. And that, that was a damn good episode.
Go watch the Neil episode.
Go watch the Neil episode.
He's unbelievable. He really is.
So we're obviously lucky to have somebody that, but again, it's not that he has anything, but understand these principles go back, to the 1940s, and there's been quite a bit of work that's been on this. So it's not a new concept. It's just a concept that hasn't been utilized fully in cannabis. So again, shout out to Mike Finelli for actually using this. And I think as a diagnostic tool, again, using it as a sign, guys, not waiting for symptoms. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's move on to actually how
to measure
do we measure it?
How to measure it? What does that mean?
What do the numbers mean?
We've talked about how to get the measurement. Once you get the measurement, how do you interpret the measurement as far as what it means?
Right. GRAMBO, if you could move that up, please, my friend. Okay, so this is, what I consider in some ways the fun part, because obviously we like to talk about the history, but then we like to actually talk about it applied, right? So this is always kind of the, the back or the funnel that we like to do. We start wide and start moving it down. So how do you actually get this number? And then how does it go from theoretical to practical? And, obviously once you start testing and measuring it, now what do I do? And do I look at it as a one single measurement, or is it a host of measurements? Is it over the course of a grow? What are we doing? So let's first and foremost talk about the tool, which is a refractometer. Yes, that's what you're going to need. GRAMBO, cue out the refractometer. What does this sucker look like? Okay, Gabe, why don't you, being the one that's been using this, why don't you explain this contraption
There's
a bit?
Two different kinds. There's this kind, and then there's this digital kind, which I happen to like a little bit better.
I can see that.
Basically, it's going to measure how much light bends as it passes through the liquid. More dissolved solids equals more light bending.
Okay.
Equals higher bricks reading. So it's a pretty simple little unit.
So accuracy wise, analog versus digital,
they're basically not that far off, but I'll be honest with you, those digital units are like $30.
And the digital is going to give you an actual measurement. The optical one here, you just look through it.
And
it kind of looks like, it's a little bit browner according to the scale.
It's kind of like the old
digital.
It's kind of like the old pH meter.
Key up the digital.
So
For the extra, the drops, dude. I don't want the drops.
I think the ones I picked up for the building are like $35, and they're all I armed my employees.
I not only did you arm with these, you armed them with a garlic press to take that sap too, which I thought was lovely. I'm like,
so how to take the reading? You're going to crush that leaf up and take some sap from the stem. You're going to apply 2 drops of the stem to the prism, close the cover of the plate, hold up the light.
And guys, why you want to do the stem?
We take a garlic press and we'll take a bunch of leaves and put them in there. I think they were saying, the one thing they were talking about with New Age is taking it from different areas of the plant.
I was going to ask you, do you put that as a conglomerate in one
Well, you'll
press?
take some, yes, but
Okay.
you'll take some,
Okay.
you'll take some from a lower area and press them. You'll take some from a middle area and press them, because that'll help you see how that sugar's moving through the plant.
Well, and here's the other thing, and I'm guessing this is going to be fairly obvious, but don't do anything that's senesced off. Don't do anything that's actually yellowed up. You're still wanting good, healthy leaves. And it sounds like to me doing a conglomerate and also specifically having some stem in there makes a lot of sense to me, because it really is trying to get the phloem sap, and that's what you're going to have. So you have the xylem that goes right through the middle of the stem. Those are actually technically old dead cells. That's where the water comes up. So you basically have a kind of a two-way street, right? And then it's on the other side of the cambium layer. That's the edge of the cambium layer where you got the phloem and the xylem and the phloem. Phloem's where all the sap and all the food's moving through and everything like that.
When we were talking to these guys about doing it, and they'll take plant material from all over the country. But they were actually talking about if your plants are super small,
right?
They're like, just give us the whole plant.
Just give us the whole damn plant. Now, I'm guessing there's a best time to test as well, right? I mean, I'm assuming a couple, 3 hours into
the light cycle when photosynthesis is kind of
cranked up. Okay. So it's kind of, I got you. I love it.
Avoid testing with the lights off. Of course, sugars will have been partially translocated. They're not moving around the plant. Consistency is key. So, same plant, same position.
I was going to say same time of day.
You're looking for trends. So if you do it at 11, just schedule it so a guy goes in there every day to whenever.
I look at it. I mean, at this point, if I'm looking at it as a diagnostic tool, that's just part of the SOPs, baby.
I think we're taking measurements.
This is what's got to happen.
I think we're taking measurements like once a week.
Okay. That was going to be my next part of a that was going to be. So there you go. You got the xylem and the phloem and xylem and phloem. Sorry. But that's where water and food is going through the phloem.
Yeah. And xylem goes up.
Yeah,
and goes both ways.
It's in the middle, and it's weird because the phloem is on the outside of the cambium layer, so it's outside of the growing layer.
Think of it like veins and arteries.
Yeah. You know what? There you go. I like that.
Nice job, Dr. Grambo.
Jeez Louise, what is this, guy? Does he play a doctor on TV or some shit? What's going on? Paging Dr. Grambo.
Got the chisel job.
Yeah, I was kind of minded for a second. I could see a proctologist. I had a guy actually. I was sitting at a bar one time, and he was a doctor. He's like, "What kind of doctor do you think I am?" And I was like, "A proctologist." And his old lady started laughing so hard he was pissed. He wasn't OBGYN though, and
Hello.
He's kind of a pervert.
Both raises questions.
Yeah, but both are questionable.
Gated.
He looked a lot like you, Graham. Hey,
anyway,
the guy that was in Grand Rapids. Anyway, let's moving on.
The number.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Do what you love.
Yeah.
What the hell? We've taken the test.
Did seem to love it.
On the numbers. What the hell do these numbers mean?
So below 4, let's start with our what's bad, right? What's the bad line?
4% is pretty much a struggling plant. Poor photosynthesis. Likely there's some nutritional issues. I guarantee if you go in the room and you look at this thing, it's going to have root issues.
I was going to say, but that's the nutritional issue is going to be the fact of it's not getting enough through it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be partly, an irrigation issue.
It can't help itself.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep. Literally can't help itself.
I'm going to slide that up, Graham Beasy. And then, in the range
4 to 8
of average is 4 to 8.
Okay.
So the plant's surviving. It's not thriving. Most commercial and home grows. This is where they sit. And this is where we're pushing you to recognize.
Nice chart.
And this is where, if you take these numbers, Billy says it best, you got to know when to put your foot on the gas.
Right.
He likes putting his foot on the gas.
And
so these are the numbers that tell you.
Shout out to Kind Bill. You got him on your hat today.
Shout out to Kind Bill. But these are the numbers that tell you how far you got to put your foot in it.
But I like it how it says right there, most commercial and home growers, that's actually where they sit.
This is where you sit.
Which is
in the average realm.
Which is okay. But if you bump up that extra third and you go from 8 to 12, now you're talking about strong photosynthesis. You're talking about good general health. You're talking about a good nutrient program. You're talking about plants producing quality secondary metabolites, so they have that correct kind of
you're in the right zone,
production and communication and all these kind of things that are going on. So, but again, there is better, right? There is elite that, and
are you saying I could go one more?
Can we go another?
Does this one go to 11?
So if you're,
I'll be honest with you, it goes to
12.
It goes to 12 plus, baby.
But 11 would be beautiful.
Let's talk about 12 plus. Can we talk about 12 plus?
It's elite territory, meaning that there's really, I would say, you're talking top 3% probably, maybe top 1%. I don't know, but we're talking exceptional plant health. We're talking absolute optimal growing conditions. We're talking about high brix cannabis correlating with superior terpene density, resin production, bag appeal profiles, flavonoids. Don't forget about flavonoids. I gotta go. So, but again, going all the way back, and I kind of talked about this and alluded to this a little bit, but it's not about a single high reading. It's pushing your baseline up over time and seeing it change. Right. Yep. So it's, it's consistency again.
Climaxing, essentially. You have this slow build.
We are age gated now. I'm just kidding.
That is a perfectly acceptable word.
That's an acceptable word.
Especially 25 minutes into the episode.
So that's true. So what actually moves these numbers?
How do we get better brix numbers?
Well, we talked about carbo as one of the ways you can do it. So if you're using a very available form, sugar form, right, that like ours is directly plant extracted, I would say that's a great way to do it. But obviously things like light intensity and spectrum and maybe even some spectrum control, right?
Yep.
So you would think more PAR equals more photosynthesis, which equals more sugar production. Again, these are pretty linear relationships.
We have a thing.
We have a thing.
Like a PAR thing.
It's
not in PAR.
Well, right.
But
right.
But even it's that UV thing, right?
Oh, that UV light. That's right.
There's one of the, because it's UVB, A, B, and C.
It's A, B, and C.
One of those that's pretty good for this. Am I right?
Well, allegedly. So supposedly UVB specifically has been really shown to trigger secondary metabolite production, which again is really one of the things we're talking about trying to be doing, because that's where all the fun stuff seems to happen, right?
Sir, yes,
aromatic rings, terpenes,
and if you guys missed it,
all the
we
fun
had
stuff.
Mex from DLI and Dr. Bugby on talking about this very thing. And
that's true.
Mex has the new science. So if you missed that one, go watch it.
It's a great video.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that was great. So let's talk a little bit about, and we talk a lot about, well, any of these ones that operate in different ionic forms because they are secondary messengers as well, right, Gabe? So something like calcium and boron, and these are critical for sugar transport in the phloem. Specifically, deficiencies in either will tank bricks. So either calcium or boron, and that's why people end up seeing when those bricks tank. What do you see after that? You see the deficiency symptoms. You see the yellowing. You see all that kind of stuff.
Boron deficiency,
right.
Yep.
So calcium is what's driving the pump, but boron opens the gates. Just like everything else, there's never one thing. Everything's always connected to another thing, which is always connected to another thing. That's science for you, folks. Yep. Sorry, it's not my fault. I didn't do it.
Magnesium is always, we always talk about how it's the center of the chlorophyll atom.
Yep.
But low mag equals low chlorophyll equals more light equals low sugar production. It's the engine of photosynthesis, kids.
Right. And I think, that's why, CalMag, and I think that's one of the reasons why even people...
More CalMag.
That's kind of happened because it is true, but the reality is most people aren't deficient on magnesium. They have plenty of it. But anyway.
Hey, guys. Today's show is brought to you by JugDealers.shop. You want to grow the best cannabis possible? Head over to JugDealers.shop and get something like our Ruby Fulvic. It's going to give you more efficient uptake on your NPK. You could also try our Winter Frost to increase secondary metabolite uptake and improve your cultivar's flavor and phenotypic expression. Or finally, grab some Cocoa Blocks to save time and money. This is how you can support the show, and it keeps us going. We're never sponsored. We're 100% funded by you taking your garden to the next level. Head over to jugdealers.shop and get something to help your cultivation thrive. Now, back to the show.
And I think, that's why, CalMag, and I think that's one of the reasons why even people...
More CalMag.
That's kind of happened because it is true, but the reality is most people aren't deficient on magnesium. They have plenty of it. But anyway, CO2, obviously elevated CO2, but without having an elevated metabolism, proper dissolved oxygen, all those kind of things, it's not really going to do anything. But if it's at that level, it will drive photosynthesis harder. If we've gotten our minimums up to our maximums, it will work. Obviously, we want to have all our moisture levels correct. You can never underestimate root health and irrigation strategy and drybacks and
check
understanding your the substrate that you're using and all these kind of things.
If your plants lack really good vigor, the first place you should be looking is your root zone.
There you go.
You know?
Hey, kids.
If your plants are lacking vigor, you might have a weak root zone.
You might have a weak root zone.
So here's one thing that I found interesting too, because, and this is one of the things we like to talk about, positive stresses, because, which maybe not even a stress per se, but we get these things to be perceived by the plant to produce more oil, because again, that is our job as oil farmers, right? But bad stress events, things like overwatering, heat stress, transplant shock, pH swings, that will drop your bricks significantly, which, as we understand now, is a direct indicator of just where your metabolism's at. How well is a plant clicking along?
And again, it can help you head off some things at the pass if you're able to keep a track of these readings.
Here's the other thing that's interesting too, because you actually will see these within 24 hours. It becomes measurable within 24 hours of a real stress event. Let's say that you had an AC go out or something like that in a room or something like within 24 hours, actually testing that. And it'd be very, very interesting. You don't want that kind of stress event to happen, but you will be able to measure that actually quite quickly, which I found interesting.
You know, Billy's always good to walk into a room and be like, hey, these plants stop hitting. You know, first thing you should be doing at that point, go and get a bricks test on them, see if the sugar's moving.
Well, but I also love, like I said, if there is a known stress event, go, all right, boys, be ready to, and girls, be ready to go in here and get in and get a test, because we're going to see just what this, you know, were we clicking at 9% and it dropped us to 5 in 24 hours, you know, some things like that. But let's move on a little bit to the last section, which is the advanced bricks, which is stuff that I found very, very interesting when it comes to pest resistance.
Get your notebooks, kids.
Terpenes, and then, you know, some of the little known science out there, or maybe even some of the, you know, where maybe some of the research is going, et cetera. You know, bricks is not just a number about sugar. It's actually connected to everything, as we kind of have alluded to this whole time, right? So pest resistance, disease immunity, terpene and cannabinoid production, which is obviously what we're here for. And even the way your plant tastes, smells, and stores, which we basically decided based on you know, that logic that must be true as well. So this is some of the stuff that a lot of people have never heard of, but once you understand it, in my mind, it really does make sense. I'll be honest with you, I always kind of thought originally, like, this isn't for cannabis, because the fact of the matter is, you know, it's about grapes, it's about sugar beets, it's about apples.
Yeah, we're not eating the raw flour for taste, But
when you factor in all these other things, it becomes a whole different thing. And just the fact that it's like, think of it like a sugar factory. And that alone goes.
And the fact that you can predict things 24 hours before they happen, I mean, that's wizardry. Now we're getting into elite level, right? Yep.
So the natural pest resistance, which is always one of my favorite things.
I'm going to read this one, because this one I thought was so fantastic that I'm going to read it verbatim just for everybody here.
Let's do it.
Insects like spider mites, aphids, thrips cannot properly digest high brick sap.
Say that one more time.
Insects like spider mites, aphids, and thrips cannot properly digest high brick sap.
Wow.
Their digestive systems are optimized for simple sugars in low concentrations. So high dissolved solids interfere with their osmoregulation. Documented in agricultural research, low bricks crops are pest magnets. High bricks crops repel them. And it's that alone. That is so important.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
We can get away from spraying. We can get away from
this. We can become part of the IPM program.
And that's
in
the
a
way.
Like, wow.
And that's the way. Wouldn't you rather send teams around the building to be taking measurements and figuring how to optimize the
and
plant,
filling up sprayers and putting on
filling up sprayers and stuff like that? You know, I see Fletcher on the tear about sulfur and all the rest of the stuff that people spray, and like, this is a way to get around it, people. And it's really important. And I think because, again, the embrace of heavy duty salts and hypochlorous acid and all the rest of this, we've kind of steered away from it. Whereas the microbiology, all these episodes we do, they all tie in together.
Yep.
So
this makes me realize, like, if you have high bricks plants and then you got like that monosilicic that we like to preach about, getting that nice waxy membrane on there, I don't think these bugs have a chance.
No, they really don't. And again, it's about creating plants that are so healthy.
Well, and here's another one, and we can even take this a little bit higher, which is, this is even a little bit stranger as well, and I'll read it specifically as well, because I don't want it to be off at all. But the electrical conductivity of healthy sap is such that high bricks plants have sap with a specific electrical signature. Reams and others theorized, and that was Dr. Reams, theorized that insects detect this electrically. In other words, healthy plants literally emit different signals. More recently, plant
Secret life of plants
there
stuff
you go.
right there,
So,
baby.
more recently is these plant biometrics research at Tufts University is exploring this mechanism. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, I found that one to be really, ooh, you know what I mean? Also the disease resistance. I mean,
pathogens like botrytis, powdery mildew, they thrive in plants with impaired sugar metabolism. Hybrix correlates to thicker cell walls, which we always talk about.
Always
driven
seems
by
to be
calcium,
good.
driven by also using the silica as well. Stronger immune signaling and faster PR protein pathogenesis related protein response,
which is similar, I'm assuming, to SAR resistance, systemic acquired resistance. So there's a lot of these resistance pathways that are
plant do the work
for you. But I mean, again,
plant janitors.
And in my mind, I go, oh, higher sugar, that must be higher rot. It's actually quite the opposite, which I found really, really interesting as well.
Let's talk about terpene production.
Well, let's actually talk about terpene production. Then we'll even talk about that cannabinoid connection. But terpenes are actually synthesized versus the MEP pathway. GRAMBO, why don't we see if we can pull that? Because I will say it's
phosphate.
Methyl phosphate.
That's one of those ones you plug.
That's a rough one. You plug it in
to your computer. And you have it
that one's a rough one. But anyway, it's in chloroplast. It's directly tied to photosynthetic sugar availability. Again, high sugar flux equals more substrate for terpene biosynthesis. Want more myrcene, limonene, and terpinolene? Get your bricks up. That's a good shirt. Get your bricks up.
Get your bricks
up. Get your bricks up.
Get your bricks up.
Look at God. That would actually made me really laugh. There's also a cannabinoid connection.
CBG. We love to talk about CBG. That's a precursor to THC.
Yep. So
CBGA, precursor to THCA.
Right. So, hold on. Are we in Florida? Okay. A crucial intermediate. What do we got here? Pull that back up, GRAMBO. Pull that crap up. So a crucial intermediate in the mevalonate pathway. MEP that for the biosynthesis of isoprenoid precursors playing a vital role. See, it's complicated, folks, but it does cool stuff and it makes more terpenes. And there's also a cannabinoid connection. And then that geranyl phosphate comes from the MEP pathway. Again, everything's always connected. Of course it is, but more sugar throughout equals more precursor availability equals higher cannabinoid potential. So that's another thing. It's always about creating and making those building blocks, putting them there so that you have the higher potential. Because let's say you have an ability to produce more cannabinoids, but you don't have the building blocks, you're not going to be able to. So that's your minimum. Because we're always going back and talking about maximizing your minimum. So what I'm saying is,
you're saying if I have higher bricks that I could potentially have higher THC?
This is what I'm saying. This is definitely what I'm saying. And again, at a certain point, folks, this definitely gets pretty biochemistry heavy. Not our specialty.
Why are the salty boys not talking about this?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't, whatever. But this is one of the things I want to talk about is that the late flower bricks spike, right? The fact that in the last 2 to 3 weeks, a well-run plant will naturally push bricks higher, so it redirects resources into resin production. As we've seen, basically it's pissed off female. It's gotten to that point. It goes, F it.
If you're not seeing this spike, something is blocking the plant's final push.
Okay. So that was one thing I was going to say too. Do you think is that some of the things that, I'd love to see this even taken, before and after winter frost, or people that are trying to even naturally, like, do you not see like in a let's say a living soil that just keeps pumping along and it's just like, it just never will finish out.
I tell you what, man,
very interesting.
I tell you what, this would support a living soil, don't have to flush argument. Just saying.
That's I mean, here, when we talked about this is, for Hybrix cannabis cures better. The sugars are metabolized more evenly during the cure, leading to smoother smoke, better terpene retention, and longer shelf life, like we were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. At least that's alleged. Mm-hmm. And I also, it does make me wonder, because honestly, I'm not even, the white ash thing, which again, we're going to get into, not on this episode because we don't have the time, but I'm not even necessarily convinced that it's better or worse smoke, but it is interesting as to what I think is making it. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about.
That had like a grayish, like peppery ash.
See, that's what I'm saying. And so I think there's a moisture thing, which I've alluded to before, but we're really going to get into that. But the reality is low bricks harvests often have that harsh smoke. You get those road flares, right? And it's because of that incomplete sugar conversion, which you also got to think even in the actual drying and curing process. And we talked a bit about that too, having that conversion as well. But also, and maybe I found very interesting, but maybe not as much now, knowing that within 24 hours of a stress event, you will see different, but Brix actually fluctuates daily.
Yeah. Circadian rhythm actually governs sugar production and transport, which is,
so you're going to have that night day and that movement of sap. And,
same way it's not taking in CO2 at night. You know what I mean? Like thing basically shuts down. So.
And that's why you have that consistency. So even if you take it when it's at its peak, it kind of doesn't matter in a way because you want to at least give it a few hours. But if you always do it at that time, then you're comparing it to that time,
it's just focusing things in different places. It doesn't shut down.
Yeah.
Just
one of the things that we can't go without talking about is obviously, Brix in root exudates, right? And root exudates is just roots pushing out sugars to feed all the other kind of things. Keep a healthy rhizosphere rocking and rolling.
And there's that symbiotic and rhizosheath.
Look it up, rhizium, rhizosheath, a very newly coined term since 2019, is it? Believe it or not. So it is one of those things that's just going to be making a more healthy rhizosphere, making a more healthy situation so you can maximize uptake. There is a symbiotic situation, whether it's in mycorrhizals, bacteria, things like that. The plants are putting out things to feed bacteria, to feed mycorrhizals so that they have, more surface area or are able to even in certain situations acquire other specific nutrients by that by that exchange process. Really interesting stuff going down there. The last thing we wanted to mention, which I already kind of did, but strain specificity.
Yeah.
There's going to be differences.
There's going to be different
so
things that like things.
Yeah, there's going to be empirical.
Yeah. And what's going to, if you look at it, that a lot of this is environmental, what's going to get you elicit an effect and one genetic is going to give you a different effect. And it's going to be what's optimum for OG won't be optimum for sour D, won't be optimum for runts. Maybe they'll be similar.
And I think hopefully we really got this apart, across to people that Brix really isn't just a number. It's a window. It's a snapshot into that metabolic health of your plant.
Stop focusing on high EC numbers and stacking your EC and start focusing on measuring these numbers and your garden will go a lot further. And your flower will taste a lot better. And you could take that. You could take that to the bank.
Take that to the bank. And again, it really, I'm starting to believe that if you're trying to produce really elite terpenes, things like that, you have to get into elite levels of Brixes because that, again, it's a snapshot of the overall metabolic activity and understanding that, we want the oil and everything out of it. But the fact of the matter is it is a sugar factory, folks. Thank you guys so much for coming and tuning in. Gabe, it's always a pleasure.
This was a winner, dude. This was a winner.
So good to have you in the studio as always. I think this is a really great episode. GRAMBO, the man behind the glass. Always thank you very, very much. Until next time, folks. Peace. Hey, everybody. Big shout out to all of our European listeners. If you're planning at being in Berlin for Mary Jane in June, come by and see us. We're going to do a very exclusive drop on some products you guys have never seen before. It will be sign up only. You'll come and pick up your package there. The way to sign up for this is to go to our website at jugdealers.net and click on the MJ Berlin tab. You can also type it in at jugdealers.net/MJ Berlin, and that will be to sign up for a very exclusive nutrient pack that will be dropping for the very first time. This is available to anybody that's going to be attending Mary Jane Berlin. You must get it in person. Come by and see us. We'll be dropping our booth number here sometime real soon. But if you want to get signed up now, go and click the tab or type in the address and we'll get you signed up. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in Berlin.